Okay, I'm gonna get a little flack from this video, and that's fine. But what was basically the essential of the United States government supposed to be based on the Constitution, and like what other types of governments was it supposed to mimic? Okay, so when we look back, if we look back really, really far, we got to look at like Plato's The Republic, right? Like that was kind of like one basis for it. And then don't forget that, essentially like the executive branch would have been like the Roman emperor and like the Senate, right? But then I think there was something to do with Parliament, like later on with the Magna Carta, that like made them add like elected representatives too, not just like being born into it, right? But I'm gonna do a little more in the books just to see on that. But that's kind of how I was kind of taught that. Now, we go back to Plato's The Republic, right? Now, when you look at what a republic is kind of like protecting the rights of everybody, right? Doesn't matter if you're the majority, the minority, whatever, right? Your rights are supposed to be protected, right? So then we get like the first half of the Constitution, which we know is like, hey, this is how the three branches are supposed to go, right? Now, don't forget the United States may have been one of the first ones that actually had a judicial branch. So, like a element of people that could say, hey, this is constitutional, this is not. Because what you would see, like in Rome and Greece and places like that, is you would literally see, like, the Roman emperor maybe make a run for it and take out everyone in the Senate, right? Kill everyone from, like, the opposing, if he didn't like something, right? Or the opposite. You would see like the Senate Tribune, which is equivalent of like the Speaker of the House, essentially, come in, talk to the Praetorian Guard. There were stories of emperors just like just walking down through his tunnel. So there was a tunnel between like basically the Emperor's mansion and the like Senate chamber there. And he walked through, and the Praetorian Guard pretty much stabbed him in the back and outwalked a tribune as the emperor. It was like, just on the way to a meeting. Now, you do see the vice president in the Constitution, which is actually really smart. They found a way to separate that because that used to happen. The vice president goes in and is like the president of the Senate, which means like they're like the Speaker of the House for the Senate, essentially. And they like break tie, like if there's a tie, they're like the tiebreaker and things like that. And they kind of preside over it. So you kind of see influences from Rome too. And that's why you see those, like, they're, I don't know the name, they're like statues or something, I don't know. Believe it or not, they're not actually a Marxist or they're not a fascist symbol. They're actually from Rome. So it's like the reeds. It's like the reeds with the axe thing, and that's also too where we get the gavel. It's made like the same wood essentially, and it's like symbolic of, hey, this is this. It being made into law essentially, There's that one deserves its own video. But anyways, so that's the idea of it. And there's a lot of limiting language though, like, which I'll talk about why there's limiting language later in a different video. But essentially like Comte Saint-Germain went and was like giving the equivalent of TED Talks to basically teach people, hey, this is how you should have like a government run, stuff like that, right? Like you get like Adam Smith and the Wealth of Nations like coming in and doing his like thing with the invisible hand and all that stuff, right? And that kind of like does the capitalist society thing too. Maritime law is another thing, but that happens to be more like with like ships and the idea of the corporation. So it's kind of like like a limited loss if like a ship went down over the Atlantic or something. It was a way to like limit like a noble person's liability. And it was also a way to do like a profit sharing thing too, which would get people some incentives to do. But that's also deserves its own video too. But anyways, so that's the idea of it. The idea of it was that a constitutional republic actually protects everybody's like rights and stuff.